the big trend this year was community. After everything that we've been through in the past couple of years, we all crave that in-person community. We all crave that sense of friendship. So that's what makes us different. So I think if you're going to build a presence, and like you said, you're going to add me to that network of people you've met already through the cast, that's what makes it stand out. That's what makes it different, is when you have a community that you actually care about the people. So when someone in the community, in the Rise community, posts something on LinkedIn, we all want to see like, oh, what are they posting? And let's leave a nice comment because we want to do it out of the goodness of our hearts.
Welcome to another episode of Personal Brand Blueprint. I am Dave Polykoff, your personal brand consultant. I help you launch, grow, and monetize your personal brand online. To check out more about that, go to davepolykoff.com for a free consultation. On today's episode, we have Valentina Escobar-Gonzalez, marketing consultant and owner of Beyond Engagement. Valentina's clients struggle with imposter syndrome and avoid showing up online, so she helps them do it in an authentic way, which feels genuine for them so they can grow their online presence. Today, we're going to chat with Valentina about how we can grow our online presence without having to go through the slog of constantly posting content every day. Some tips and tricks on how to still do that. So Valentina, welcome to the show.
Dave, I'm so glad to be here. I actually was binging a couple on episodes and I'm like, I'm already addicted to your podcast just by doing the research.
Love it. Yeah, we try to provide as much value as possible for those who are trying to grow their personal brands online, and I know today is going to be no exception. So I want to jump into that. This is going to be an interesting conversation today too, because I preach content creation a lot, and I have a done for you service that helps people do that, because as much resources and as much as we can preach, content, it still takes so much of our time and energy and mental capacity and know-how
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
But we always preach content in order to grow your personal brand. But today we're going to talk about, well, what if that's not the only way to do it? Is there some other ways that we can still grow our personal brand outside of content? So this is going to be a good one. So let's start off, just kind of getting to know you a little bit more. Define kind of what you do and who you do it for.
Okay, I love this question because, like I said, I've been binging on your show here. So I've been in business for, it's going to be 13 years next month. So I'm super pumped up. But what I do is I get businesses up to speed on the latest on social media marketing and a little dash of AI. And it's mostly business owners or people that are in a corporate scene that kind of want to elevate their game. So that's what I try to do. I try to get rid of the struggle and help empower my clients. And I use a lot of LinkedIn for that.
Nice. So who's typically the ideal client then that is coming to work with you?
So it's funny because I have like little personas with names and everything. So I love my Gen Xers because they're young enough to know about social media, but they're not very savvy. So they have like that complexity problem. So I love working with Gen Xers. I love working with like side hustlers that are like trying to get something out there, a side gig out there. And then again, business owners of people that are trying to get ahead of the game here when it comes to social media marketing, not to be icky, but to really be like a thought leader. And that's why I teach them a lot about LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've heard you use the word, imposter syndrome and thought leader, and those two things just go, or kind of like two sides to one coin. What's
Yeah.
typically the issue that people are facing when they're coming to you that you're helping them solve?
It's funny because I'm like, okay, you're paying me like whatever amount of money, and I keep them accountable. I push them, something that they probably would never do, like do videos or do a specific type of content that's kind of like out of their realm of expertise. I kind of make them feel empowered by repetition. So we do things over and over until we get it right. So that's what I kind of do. I kind of like handhold them, or if they want a drill sergeant, I can be that as well.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and what's the importance? I mean, we talked about authenticity as kind of the keystone word within personal branding, but specifically within your services. What's the importance of authenticity when it comes to personal branding?
It's funny that you said that because I'm thinking about the about section, like in any bio, even the about section on your LinkedIn bio. Like, what is it that you're willing to put out there? How did you get started? Did you just stumble upon it? And people love knowing that little back end story. So I teach my clients, let's go deep. Let's retell your story so you can identify with other people. Maybe you're a parent, maybe you're a dog parent, maybe you're a plant lady like me, like, that sort of stuff. And then when you find that right story, then that kind of, builds rapport with people. So we talk about the about section. Let's say it's on LinkedIn, and then we really, really hone in on it. And then we use AI to really create a very like distinctive sub like headline on LinkedIn. So we just really might try to personify it to our different audiences. So whenever I meet with someone, I always say, okay, we're going to create this about section. Who are your three personas? Who are the three people? Do you even have a name for them? Like I really make them think, and I'm like, if you create any piece of content and you're closing your eyes and you're creating a blog post, who is it that you see when you close your eyes and write this for?
Mm. And you talk about story there. Let's go into your story now.
Yeah.
What's kind of your origin story for how you got into this space and how you kind of found authenticity to be a key factor, and then how did you kind of translate that into a service?
Yeah, so I this is the funniest story in life. So when I was a teenager, I was growing up in Miami. So in case you hear the accent, it's a Miami accent. And I would visit this older lady that was like 60 years older than me. And she's like, I'm gonna, teach me about the internet. And if you guys are just hearing me, I'm doing air quotations. So she's like, teach me about the internet. I want to know more than my buddy. Let's just say her name's Betty. So I want to know more than Betty. And they're old ladies that want to know the latest thing on social media, or at that time it was AOL in the internet. So I would teach her on how to write an email and how to go on the internet and how to send messages on AOL and stuff. So that was my origin story. And then it's funny because I studied too. I went to college for animal sciences. I wanted to be a veterinarian. And then my dream died when I discovered organic chemistry. I couldn't pass Orgo, so I couldn't pass organic chemistry. I graduated in the recession in 2008. There were no jobs. By then, I had switched majors to the business side of animal sciences. And it was bad where I lived in Florida. So I went and got in my MBA. I paid that puppy out of my own pocket. And when I finished, I moved from Florida to Tennessee. I didn't know anyone. So I would go to Twitter or now X, and I would look up chicks or ladies that do marketing, PR, and everything. I'm like, hey, can we have a cup of coffee? Hey, can we meet up? And then I realized, even like right there, and like I was finishing my last semester of my MBA, and every answer to any project in my MBA program was social media marketing. Marketing, let's really build the communication. And that's when I started my business. There were no jobs. So I said, I'm going to invent a business that we are beyond engaging with our people. So that's why I named my business Beyond Engagement.
Love that. Yeah, it's always fun hearing kind of the origin stories of names of companies as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
As serial as I'm sure we're all kind of serial entrepreneurs. One of the fun things is coming up with the name and the logo of the business.
Yeah.
So through that journey, as you're growing out your own personal brand and trying to get clients, what were some of the tactics that you were taking to help kind of get your name on the map to let people know about your services? Ones that you found were bringing in the most clients and the most, I guess, move the needle the most. And then what were some of the things
Yeah.
that you tried and realized, maybe that's not the best way to grow my personal brand?
So I think a lot of it, like I mentioned earlier, was going on social media and meeting with these top influencers in the area and, joining the chamber and doing that local stuff and going to networking events where you're not technically invited to, but you just show up because you like food. But the thing is, it was mostly LinkedIn. And I was on a pioneer. Like I was on LinkedIn back in 2008, like ages ago. So, and, something I want to emphasize, 4 out of the 5 people in LinkedIn drive business decisions, and LinkedIn makes up more than 50% of social traffic. So, LinkedIn user have 2 times the buying power. That's huge. Like I want to emphasize that. And LinkedIn makes up more than 50% of social traffic to this B2B, business to business websites and blogs. So this is a really important tool. So I was using that. I was posting consistently. And I think we talked about that. You talked about that with someone on your podcast previously that was building a brand. I think he's an author of a book. And it's more about the consistency. And I was very consistent in my approach with my marketing and my networking. And so the thing is that after a while, the bad thing is the thing that's not as successful is if you're not following up with people, you're not going to grow your business. You're not going to make sales. So I think a lot of people fall on that bandwagon that they go to all these places, but they're too afraid to make that follow-up phone call or email.
So let's talk on that for a bit because let's focus on LinkedIn consistency. Now, I guess consistency can be used throughout your personal brand in many ways. Maybe just the messaging is consistent regardless of where you say
Yeah.
it, or just showing up consistently. Um, let's talk maybe about the content side of it first, because today we want to talk about how other ways we can grow our personal brand outside of content. But let's just touch on it at least to begin with. What's been your experience with content creation in maybe ideation, the creative process? What are some of the wins and losses that you've seen throughout your personal brand journey with content creation?
So I blog consistently, and the thing is that what makes you successful, if we were all consistent, we would all be rich, fit, successful and everything. But the thing that helps the most is having that voice. I I blog, but I'm not blog a blogger that writes a lot. Like I make it sweet and simple to the point. There's some people that like video, and depending on who your audience is, again, back to the personas, are they a blog reader or are they a video consumer? So that sort of stuff is so important. So when you're on LinkedIn, it's not necessarily the post if you're posting consistently. It's more about engaging with prospects, engaging with people. So when you post something on LinkedIn in that first hour, it's only pushing it to 10% of your audience. So, if you're not cultivating these relationships, engaging with people, commenting on posts, when you actually decide to post something on LinkedIn, you're not going to get much traction if you're not already doing that for other people.
Hey, Blueprint fam, if you're enjoying today's episode and finding my guest insights valuable, then you'll definitely want to subscribe to the Personal Brand Blueprint podcast as we drop weekly guest interview episodes just like this one. And on that note, you obviously also see firsthand how powerful being an effective guest, like the one you're watching on this episode right now, can be at attracting qualified, interested leads directly into your sales funnel. But I know what you're thinking. You want to get into guest podcasting, but starting feels confusing and overwhelming. What equipment do you need? And how do you look and sound great? And how do you turn listeners into leads? I know this because so many of my guests had these exact problems in the past. And that is why I created the Podcast Guest Mastery Blueprint. It's a simple but powerful breakdown on everything you need to look, sound, and convert great as a podcast guest. Everything from how to set up your recording area to what equipment you need to look and sound great on camera, and what to say on podcasts to stand out, be memorable, and earn the audience's trust. And then that one key strategy to turn listeners into leads. I'm telling you, this isn't just another checklist. This is a step by step blueprint to make sure you look, sound, and present your best on podcasts so you can convert that attention into leads and ultimately new business. I honestly was thinking about selling this for like $97, but I'd rather give access to this guide to my Personal Brand Blueprint podcast audience for free. So if you are ready to become a sought after podcast guest and use it to generate leads and build your personal brand, then grab your copy of Podcast Guest Mastery Blueprint at davepoly.com/pod guest blueprint. You can find the link to that in the show notes below. Again, that's davepoly.com/pod guest blueprint, and start turning podcast interviews into business. Again, it's completely free for being a loyal listener, so definitely check it out. Cool? All right, let's get back to the conversation. So let's get into that then. So outside of content creation, LinkedIn is also a social network,
Yeah.
right? So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
keyword here being social, but a lot of people, what we say is they post and ghost, and they just
Exactly.
they just
Yes.
kind of say, "Here's my thought leadership. Come buy my course." So outside of just content creation, what are some of the other ways that we can be growing our personal brand, our audience, our just online clout? Yeah, with on LinkedIn specifically.
Yeah, so on back on LinkedIn, again, when you let's just put, content aside, when you post something, it gets 1/10 the reach. But if you comment on people's posts, it gets 1/3 the reach. So this is super important. Again, it's that engagement. So that's the strategy is taking the time to comment on people's posts several times a day. So it's that's the secret sauces is doing that. It's being engaging with your content. And the thing is, like, I love that you mentioned this in a previous episode where you're like, hey, if you love my podcast, I love that you said love. I don't know that many guys, Dave, that say, hey, if you love my work, I love you, thank you. Or like I never have heard a guy say that in his podcast. But you said, if you love the podcast, send me that little pop up, send me a little note that says, hey, you're a fan of, like, I love that you said that. So that sort of stuff. So go back in your old school Rolodex or go your contacts, your network, your colleagues, your people that you work with, and start connecting with them. And again, start turning on the notifications. So if I have an MVP or, a customer or a prospect, someone I really, really want to work for or work with, I go to their profile, connect with them, and then I turn on the little bell icon. That way I'm getting notified every time that person posts. So I'm up to date, I'm on top of their, whatever's going on with their life. So that's the type of thing that I do. And that's the strategy when it comes to LinkedIn. Another thing that's important, is, if you're gonna post, try to post stuff that's different. So a lot of people just do like a simple caption. You switch it up, do a carousel post, do video posts, do those type of things that are different. What you want to do is when you do decide to post something on LinkedIn, what is going to invoke an emotion? What's going to get people to comment on your post? And back to your saying posting and ghosting. A lot of people are like, okay, I'm going to post my post, get up and do something else. You have to stay glued to your phone because the thing is that when people are commenting, that's going to keep your post up there higher on the traction. So you have to engage with people. So if someone leaves you a comment, you respond back with another comment, and then you hope that there's a ripple effect that other people comment on that comment as well.
One of the reasons I love this podcast and doing this podcast is because I get to meet really smart, great marketers, branders such as yourself, and I get
Oh,
to
thank you.
establish. Yeah, had to include you, right? And we establish a relationship. You know, I have a call before the podcast. We have this like hour or so together, and then what I say is like, I become your new biggest fan. I add you to my list of people that I want to continuously engage with.
Yeah,
And so the goal there is just also, marketers supporting marketers, but also just starting this community of people that are supporting each other online. I feel like there's a healthy way to kind of create that community
yeah,
of each other supporting, but then there's kind of been this like maybe infamous engagement pod type
yeah,
strategy where it's a little bit more spammy. Basically,
yeah,
the goal here is like, let's just engage with each other's posts so we
yeah,
can help each other grow, but maybe the audiences aren't right and whatnot. So what are your thoughts
yeah.
on like engagement pods? Is there a good way to do it? What should we be thinking about with all that?
I'm glad you brought that up. So you had previously Dan Nesso on the show, and he's in the Rise community as I am in Discord. And this is how community is done right. It's run by Mark Schaefer. He's a 10-time best-selling author. I love Mark Schaefer. And Dan and I are in this community, like I said, called Rise on Discord. And we're there and we're learning stuff about AI and the future of marketing and all that good stuff. But we really care about each other, and let me just take it to the next step. We all co-wrote a book called The Most Amazing Marketing Book Ever. There's 36 authors from 10 countries. So if you actually listen to the Audible version, it's hilarious because you can hear people like me with a funny accent. But the point is that we care about each other. Like, we've met some of these people in real life, and we had a book party and people came. Well, one person came from Ireland, another person came from Australia, and it was so much fun to see each other in real life. So when we post on LinkedIn, we're not doing that thing that you just said. We authentically want to comment on each other's posts because we care about each other. And I think that's the distinction, that the big trend this year, if you had to say anything aside from AI, the big trend this year was community. After everything that we've been through in the past couple of years, we all crave that in-person community. We all crave that sense of friendship. So that's what makes us different. So I think if you're going to build a presence, and like you said, you're going to add me to that network of people you've met, already through the podcast. That's what makes it stand out. That's what makes it different, is when you have a community that you actually care about the people. So when someone in the community, in the rights community, posts something on LinkedIn, we all want to see like, oh, what are they posting? And let's leave a nice comment because we want to do it out of the goodness of our hearts.
Mhm.
Yeah.
One pet peeve I guess I have with when you're growing your network, I'll receive friend requests or
Yeah.
however you refer to them on LinkedIn, technically.
Yeah.
And the first thing I do when I get a new request is intro myself, say, great to connect. Are you here because you were interested in my services, or are you just looking to expand your network? And many will just say, hey, I'm looking to expand my network. So I'll
Yeah.
respond back with, great. How were you hoping that we could be of value for each other? And not many people have like an answer to that. It's mostly
Yeah.
just, I guess it's just an idea of this seems like an interesting person. Let me friend request them just to like have them as one of my connections.
Yeah.
What when we're trying to like grow our personal brand and grow our network and such, how should we be thinking about who we want to request, and then how can we follow up that connected request with something that actually does cause action and cause a value later on with that person?
Yeah, so I like you had just mentioned like a couple minutes ago. I heard you on the podcast. I really identified with what you said about XYZ, and I want to learn, I want to freshen up my skills or learn something about you and say following up with you because there's two options on LinkedIn. There's the connect button and there's the follow button. If you're never going to meet that person in real life, then just click the follow button just to get to know what the person's saying, and they probably get notified on their back end that's you're following them. But if you really think that you're going to meet that person one day, or you really care about that person, or you really want to invest your time learning more about that person, then I would press the connect button. But I love clicking on that little notification or that little note button and say, hey, we met at this chamber event or we met at this conference. And I really enjoyed hanging out with you. And you were my little conference buddy. That literally happened. I went to the Marketing Props B2B forum a couple weeks ago in Boston, and I had a great time, and I was with the same lady the whole time. It was 600 and almost 700 people there, and I kept seeing the same lady all the time. So we cultivated a relationship. So I think it's putting that transparency and saying, "Hey, I want to get to know you better. I really had a great time getting to know you through the podcast or in this conference, and following up with that."
On personal branding, a large part of it, authenticity, but also like positioning and how to stand out.
Yeah,
And ideally, those two things are working in conjunction. And largely, the areas that we can do that are within our content and within our profile. So when people do see our content, they want to check us out, they go into our profile and they can easily get an idea of who we are and what we provide and who we provide it for.
yeah.
What are some of the areas to help us be able to grow our community and capture the right people that are actually interested in what we're serving? What are some of the optimizations we can make to our profile to make sure that that's happening?
Yeah. So again, I get back to the about section. I can't harp on that enough. Is putting those keywords, what are you known for in your current job role or description? Putting those keywords of how you can facilitate or how you can help someone. I love what Dan Nessel said in the previous episode as I was binge listening to the podcast. The only I, and I think we got that from Mark Schaefer. What is it that you do that no one else possibly does? What is that background? And it's like that sort of origin story, like you mentioned. Maybe it was the humble upbringing. Maybe it was the career shift that you had that people can identify with. One of the people that I connected with this year, he has in his about section. I was at a business dinner with my colleagues, and there was a fortune teller, and the fortune teller said blank. And because of that, the next day I did blank. And I loved his about section. It just hooked you. And I think that's the type of stuff that you want to emphasize is how you can help that person, what got you started, because we all love hearing those stories. Like I don't know about you, but I'm nosy, Dave. Like I want to know how you got into this. And I love knowing those stories. And I
Mhm.
that's how I connect with people on LinkedIn.
On that note, then, while we're trying to create those genuine connections, we're supporting our community through engaging with content. How do we ensure then that we're coming across, or at least genuinely being authentic within our efforts, within our content? I mean, now LinkedIn has options to create AI generated responses. It's almost like the opposite of
Yes.
that, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
how are we combating the AI revolution with authenticity when we are trying to grow a community and stay engaged with our community?
Yeah, so I think it's the personal stories. I think it's just getting comfortable enough to say, "Hey, this happened at this event, and I remember hearing this story." There was someone that had commented, posted something super insightful today, and I was part of a blog post that was a community-based blog post, kind of like the book. And I said it was the highlight of my week to be part of this blog post, and I got a kick listening to everyone's interpretation of what their biggest marketing nugget was for this year. So that sort of stuff kind of makes it stand out when you identify and put a story behind it. That is what's going to separate you from other people, especially when it comes to AI. Even it down to like if people that know me know that I'm obsessed with cookies. Like, and I put emoji cookies, and people know that that's my thing, that's my jam. So they understand that that's who I am. That's not an AI thing. Another thing that I do, and it's not I don't think it's professional, but I do typos or I have some grammatical errors so people know that that's pretty me because that's how I am in real life. No one's perfect.
On that note as well, um, when you're growing out your personal brand and you're trying to, I guess, you want to show up and be creating content, but you also want to balance your day with the engagement side of things. How much of your time should you be spending? Because you mentioned, posting something and then sticking with by your phone to
Yeah,
be engaging with people. How
yeah.
much time during the day should we be committing to this outreach, this engagement and such? Like what part of our day is actually committed to all this?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you a tip that I heard from the most amazing LinkedIn person marketer ever. So I met Richard Bliss, and he talked about this is his strategy, this is his homework. So if you're hearing this, write this down. If you're driving, please don't write this down, but just try to remember this. So he wants you to do this. It's 3 times a day. So for 3 times a day. So you wake up, lunchtime, dinner time, or when you're doing your Netflix and chill section here. So 3 times a day on 3 people, you're going to leave a comment, and you do it for 5 days, and you're going to increase your profile views from 300 to 500%. So let me repeat that because I'm from Miami and I talk fast. Let me repeat this again. Dave, by the way, where are you from?
I'm from Philly.
Philly. So there you go. But
Yeah.
yeah, so again, 3 times a day for 3 people for 5 days, and you're going to see profile views increase by 300 to 500%. And you're not going to leave sissy comments. You're not going to be congratulations on a work anniversary. You're going to say, congratulations, Dave. I'm so glad that you reached your 100th episode of your blog because I don't know how many, I mean, your podcast. I don't know where we are right now. We're getting there, right? We're getting there higher than numbers, but
Mm.
I'm so proud of you. I remember when I was whatever number I am right now. And then you put some substance into it. And it was great talking to you about Philly. And I've heard so many good things about the cookies that people do in the Christmas season. There's like a variety of and then we can go crazy like that. But that's the type of comment that you want to leave. Something substantial, something that like if someone's like eavesdropping into LinkedIn, they see that, okay, she already does know Dave. Like she's gone to know him. Their relationship behind that. That's the type of comment that you want to leave on that person on LinkedIn.
What's typically when people are coming to you for support on social media to grow their personal brands? What's typically like the number one mistake that they're making that you immediately go, okay, we're going to prioritize fixing this first?
They don't go for it. They are too either like they have that complexity problem, like the imposter syndrome, or they're like a perfectionist. They're like, oh, I'm not gonna I want to have all my ducks in a row. I want to have this. So they never do. They never act on it. So then when they get to me, they're like, okay, they're gonna pay me the money, then I'm gonna make them do it. So I think it's that step. They just get stuck on the detail. They get too stuck on what type of post or it's video or a picture or whatever. They get stuck on that, or they don't know if they look smart enough in their posts. So I think it's just getting them to do it. That's the secret sauce. And then back to the comment strategy, your comments get more shown to a wider audience than your actual posts. So again, being mindful of whatever you're liking and commenting is going to show to a network beyond yours. So be very mindful of that as well.
And when people are coming to you for social media support, what's like a typical engagement like, from like initial consultation call
Yeah.
through, how you work with them on a daily basis?
Yeah, so I with my clients, I do like a monthly thing. So I meet with them and I give them like the brain dump. Like I give them like we go through their LinkedIn, we go through everything, every detail, seeing what they need to add and that sort of stuff, the strategy. And then on top of that, I give them all the tips that I learned from this guy, Richard Bliss, that's amazing, and other things that I can share with them. And then I push them. I'm like, okay, let's do a video right now. They're like, I've never done a video. I'm terrified. I'm like, well, we're gonna do it. And I literally have my little notebook with a sheet of paper and I'm like, this is it. So I'm recording them, literally recording them. And I have a sticky note in my head and I'm like, say this, do this, say this,
Love it.
and that sort of stuff. And I push them to do those sort of things. So, and then I teach them a little bit of AI as well. I'm like, okay, these are the prompts. You're going to pretend that you are XYZ that has the task to do this. And we want to sound like this. And our audiences are this, this, and this. So, I show them a little bit of AI as well. But normally it's just like a 2-hour session and then follow-up consultations, like maybe half an hour every week or every 2 weeks, and then that gets them it's like a boot camp. It pushes them, out there.
With our audience being people who want to launch, grow, monetize their personal brand, can you walk us through an example client as best as you can give
Yeah.
information that is in that context, someone trying to grow their personal brand and the problems they were facing, where they were, and then kind of where you were able to lead them?
So this happened a lot actually. So when I learned all these tips, I started a new program, the boot camp type of program. I launched it in May, and the first 3 or 4 people that I worked with were business coaches or business like type of coach type of thing, and they were all writing their first book. So the problem was they go from a corporate setting where they're working full time as a corporate person, and now they're either doing this full time or they're writing the book full time. So I'm working with them not only with teaching them everything, but launching their personal brand as well. So these 3 people that I worked with in the beginning of the summer, they had no idea how to use LinkedIn, how to grow their organic presence, how to really build an engaging audience because they were coming from a corporate setting. They didn't have to hustle for it. They didn't have to do these sort of things. So that was the type of clientele that I had that, re-propelled themselves with using these strategies.
And what typically should people, if they wanted to move forward with someone like you, what's typically kind of the budget that they should have in mind for, I guess, your services and or any other resources that they're going to need to invest into to support it?
Yeah, so the first and I love that you're asking, like, these super personal questions, Dave, I love it. Because I've been binging on these episodes, and I didn't get the money question before, so I love that. I'm like,
Keep it
I
interesting. Well, I want
I
to
love
let
you.
people. The goal here is to not only educate, but then for people to be inspired to, like, all right, I'm motivated to
Yeah.
take action, but it always comes down to, like, well, how much is it really going to cost me? Am I willing to invest into this? And so it's important.
Yeah, I love Dave. I appreciate you for the spicy question. I love it.
Yeah.
So, so I charge 500 for that initial month where I'm giving you like the boot camp version, and then after that, it's like half the price. So it's just getting that first, and that's what separates most people. A lot of people are not willing to spend that much money on themselves. So when I work with those people, I know they're personally invested in themselves. When I do workshops, so I do two things. I do the consultations, like the boot camps, or I do social media workshops in person or webinars. And it's always when those people are willing to pay, even if it's like a little bit, that they're ready to take that next level versus going to a freebie, webinar or something like that. You want to work with people that are willing to invest in themselves. And they're going to be successful because they're willing to invest in themselves.
Yeah, I agree. There's that mindset where you don't need to sell them really
Yeah.
on anything. They're already in investment mode. Like they're bought into the idea that my personal brand, my me LLC is the greatest investment I can make. And I have my budget that if I
Yeah.
don't have it right now, I'll find it. I'm ready to go. I'm
Yeah.
bought into you. because you've invested into your personal brand and I'm bought into whatever you're selling. And so yeah, it's just like from an audience perspective, when we're thinking about why it's important to invest in ourselves,
Yeah.
it's because people end up getting motivated to invest into themselves when they see the success that we're having. So I love that.
Yeah, I'm in a mastermind group, networking group that meets every Wednesday in real life in person.
Mhm.
And it's funny because I tell them, okay, I just came back from Boston. I went to two personal marketing retreats in May and October. So they know that I'm personally invested. I use the paid version of ChatGPT. I'm in the paid community on Discord. I am personally investing my money and my brain's oozing with marketing stuff. So they know that I'm different from everyone else. Like I am actively investing in myself. So
Yeah.
that's going to compel them to invest in me by hiring me to do, help them with their strategy.
Yeah, and I see that too with when it comes to like personal branding strategy. A lot of times just showing up and showing that you are actively involved in your niche, your industry, whatever you want to be synonymous with, that you're
Exactly.
experimenting, that you're investing into the new tools, that like you're following the news that surrounds it. Just by you attaching yourself more to your industry, people go, okay, this person lives and breathes this thing. So if I ever
Yeah.
have a need for that industry, I trust that this person is like on it. You know,
Yeah.
Johnny on the spot, like I can go to this person and they're gonna have a solution because they've proven to consistently show up
Yeah.
with knowing that they're always, investing into it. So I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is all for today's episode of Personal Brand Blueprint. A big thank you for Valentina for being on today's show and walking us through how we can grow our personal brand without going through daily content creation and how to show up authentically through those strategies as well. To learn more about how to launch, grow, and monetize your personal brand, follow the Personal Brand Blueprint podcast. Follow me, Dave Polykoff, and Valentina on LinkedIn. And check out davepolykoff.com for ways that we can work together on a one-on-one basis. Links to all of those will be in the show notes below. Thank you, and see you on the next episode of Personal Brand Blueprint. Today, we learned about my guest's origin story, unique methods, and credibility. If you want to see me break down how today's guest can use those tools within the personal brand blueprint strategy to attract, convince, and convert new qualified leads so you can do the same for your business, then check out this episode here. Or if you want to continue to hear more incredible personal branding origin stories and learn more valuable personal branding skills from my awesome guests, then check out the full playlist of interviews here.